What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, I want to make sure I tell you, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and make sure to comment what you like, what you don't like, and what you recommend and suggest we talk about. So always looking forward to hearing what my agents of respect have to say. Obviously, as long as they keep it respectful. If not, they get ignored. Um, I want to kind of give you guys a few things about what's going to be going on over the next few months. The show will be transitioning a little bit for those that were or have been with me from the beginning. Uh, the main focuses of the podcast was to talk about sports, of course, but also sprinkle in some religion, some politics, just some mainstream things that are happening, and just kind of with so much going on in the sports world and everything around it. Uh, going to kind of trying to transition a little bit to be more sports oriented. Of course, for my listeners that do appreciate some of those other topics, there will be some of those in the future, but um, it'll be a while. Just want to be honest with you. Just want kind of want to focus on sports with the football season. So much happening with basketball, college athletics, a lot of things centered around that. So want to focus the show a little bit more so I can capture all of those various topics within the realm of sports. So hope that everybody stays with me on this journey and continues to enjoy the content. Uh, Love everybody that's supported so far and looking forward to those that come along for the ride. So with that being said, man, football season is here. Last week we had the NFL Hall of Fame game. We had the Jets and the Browns. Won't talk about those two piles of garbage much, but they did signal the beginning of the NFL season. Obviously, we had training camp, and we're getting into the preseason games where we get to, watch some of the new generation and maybe some players that we liked in college that might not necessarily make the team, but just kind of wanting to enjoy their time on a specific roster. Now, of course, I would very much love to talk about my New Orleans Saints and my New York Football Giants, but um, as we kind of really talk about the overall thing of preseason, just kind of wanted to talk about football in general. I know sometimes the preseason, because we've been waiting so long since January and February, really, for football to get here, we go crazy, we go overboard, we're anxious, and sometimes we forget that it is the preseason. So what your boy's going to do for you, because I love you so much, is give you a guide to enjoy the NFL preseason. And so we're going to talk about maybe three or four things that you should do. And if you do it, you will enjoy the NFL preseason for what it is. And you can reserve all of the energy for the games that actually matter. And so, starting with first thing to enjoy the preseason, just always pray for health. The worst thing you ever want to see, whether it be off-season or preseason practices or preseason games, is guys who have a promising career or just guys that are trying to make something of themselves in the NFL. There's not too many people that can make it to that point and have a chance to compete for a spot. So you do want everyone to stay in good health because this is their livelihood, and you want to make sure that they're able to do what they do at the best of their abilities and they're not losing any opportunities based off of injury. And it's everything that's on the field or off the field in the sense of their character and things like that. But you never want injuries to be a deterrent of someone's career. Of course, we know they happen. It's football, it's a physical game, it's going to happen. But at the very least, as a fan and the want to enjoy it, at least think of the guys that are out there and the young men and even some of the older men that are trying to, make do and make way for their family and their loved ones. Just pray for them. Make sure they're healthy. That's all we can ask for. Next day, which is really big if you really think of it, and I'm guilty of it myself of not doing it. But my advice to you in terms of enjoying the preseason is enjoy the game and don't nitpick. Again, I know it's been so long. The last football or last NFL football we've seen was the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. Some people got their fix, watching the XFL and the USFL, but it's nothing like the National Football League. And so I know people, their juices are flowing, their gears are going, and they're just ready to see some guys hit each other, really. And when you're so passionate and you're a fanatic or a fan for your particular team, you can go a little bit overboard and forgetting that this is the preseason. And like I said, I've been guilty of it myself. If the starting quarterback, misses a throw, or an offensive lineman misses a block, or a running back, maybe fumbles or something like that. You know, there's been times where I've been irate, like, bench him, cut him, whatever. But guys and girls, it's the preseason. It's not as if we're throwing them into week one of the regular season and telling them to play. This is the time for the tune-ups. Remember, it's a new year, it's a new team. With the Saints specifically, new quarterback. Penning, who was hurt last year as our left tackle, is virtually new. So you got a new left tackle, essentially. You got some new players on the defensive line, some new players in the secondary. So essentially, you're going to have some growing pains, and that's okay. That's what we're expecting. I assure you that's what the coaches are expecting, because for them to do their job effectively, they kind of need to see you mess up. Of course, they would want things to be perfect, but we know this is an imperfect world. And some of the players are going to make mistakes, but that's what coaches get paid the big bucks for, to prevent those mistakes. And so you're wanting to see game after game after game, which now we only have 3 preseason games instead of the 4 that we used to have. Now that we have 17 regular season games, so now it's lessen the amount of time that coaches have to evaluate players. So be lenient on them. Not saying that you should just, the guy throws a pick, you just don't care. That's kind of impossible. But at the same time, look for the tendencies. Look for what happened, what may have caused that, and try to figure out, okay, is this something that's going to be a problem going forward? Or again, is it the growing pains? And then a big reason why you really shouldn't nitpick, please understand that the starters for your team, the 22 guys that are probably going to be suiting up week one and playing, hopefully, God willing, with full health, playing the whole season, you're only going to see them for a limited amount of time, especially with now, instead of having 4 games, you have 3 games. You might see some guys play a couple possessions, in the first quarter. At most, you might see starters play the whole first quarter or into the second quarter. And that's usually when you have truly a new team and you have guys fighting for spots and things like that. But 9 times out of 10, you won't see the starters much. And with that in mind, understand you're going to be seeing a lot of backups, a lot of guys fighting to make the team. And a lot of backups means there's going to be a lot of mistakes. And that's just what it is. Do you want to have penalties and stuff like that? No. Do you want to have turnovers and stuff? Of course not. But still understand that some of these guys are going to make mistakes, especially when you understand that, again, there's some guys that are fringe roster guys. They can either make the team or they won't make the team. And they're going to be pressing a little bit. And I think, just as a reasonable person, you have been in situations where you're the new person on the block, or there's immense pressure on you, and you want to do things so right that sometimes you have a little mishap. Understand it's the same thing for NFL players. They are human, and that's going to happen. So again, enjoy the game to the best of your abilities. Please don't nitpick, because again, most of the guys you're going to be seeing through the games, if you're even a fan enough to watch all of the preseason games, they're not going to be making or breaking what you're doing in a regular season, whether you make the playoffs or not, whether you're, picking in the top 5 or not, or whether you win the Super Bowl or not. That's just not what it's going to be. It never has been, never will be. Of course, there might be some guys that make the roster, make the team, and do some great things, but likelihood of that happening is really slim to none. And so that leads me to my next point. To enjoy the NFL preseason, please understand that the fan favorite is likely not making the team. And if they make the team, they're likely not getting a whole bunch of playing time. They're probably going to be on special teams. They're probably going to be on the practice squad. They're probably going to be a body on the sideline in the case that someone does get injured in the game, or a few people get injured in the game. And guess what? That's okay. This is not me being a Debbie Downer telling you not to have a fan favorite, not to see a player and want them to do great. I'm telling you right now, A.T. Perry is my guy from Wake Forest. He's going to be playing wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. I want him to play so well that he gets one of those 5 or 6 wide receiver spots on the main roster. But will he get the opportunities? Who knows? We know he's not going to be catching passes from Derek Carr more than likely. He might be catching passes from Jameis Winston, but James is probably only going to play a possession or two. And then it's going to be Jake Haener with backup offensive linemen, backup wide receivers, backup running backs. Are we really going to truly see these guys be able to showcase their abilities? I don't know. You want them to make the team. Everybody has their favorites, especially when we get like the undrafted free agent signings. Those are always the big ones because those are guys that didn't get drafted that are trying to make a team. Those are the guys with the story. And of course, as a fan and just our nature to gravitate towards the underdog, you just go towards those guys and you want them to make the team. And the thing is, they may not make our team. And if they're really good and they don't make our team, more times than not, it's because the other 31 teams are scouting. They're looking too, because there are some guys on their roster that they know they won't keep or they can't afford to keep, but they can get the guy that's shining on another team. And so they're actively recruiting. It doesn't just stop from the college game. Like they're recruiting other players on other teams that are fringe roster guys and saying like, okay, this team is deep with linebacker. We're thin at linebacker, but I want to see how that guy plays because I may want to offer him a contract to compete for a spot on my team. That's going to happen. It happens all the time. And so there's a lot of reasons why fan favorites may not make the team, but it's okay. It's not always bad things. It's not always that they're not a good player, or I should say, not good for the system and the team. But sometimes they're too good for the team, or they're too good to where they don't fit. They're at the end of the depth chart for us, but they might be top 3, top 4 for another team. That's a better opportunity for them to play, to make some more money for themselves and make some generational wealth in the NFL. The NFL stands for not for long, and so you want to capitalize on the opportunity that you have and make the most of it, from career accolades and for career earnings. You just want to do that. And so I know a lot of times when we get invested in these players and then, in previous years, you had roster cuts throughout. This year is going to mark the beginning of holding everyone until after the final preseason game, and then doing the cut. So it's going to be even more where we're really getting invested in guys. And then right before the regular season begins, then you're hearing that maybe somebody who was your favorite isn't making the team. And so a lot of times, we're emotionally invested in the underdog. It's just a natural instinct to gravitate towards that. And so sometimes we get mad at the team, you're cussing them out, you're cussing the coach out, you're cussing the general manager out. And I'm just letting that's just kind of the business of it all. You're going to give yourself a heart attack trying to, we can't keep everybody. Understand that. And take pride in the fact that maybe if this guy didn't make the team, it's because the person that took that roster spot is beneficial or was seen as being more beneficial to the bottom line and helping this team win games, helping this team hopefully win their division, make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. So just kind of think of the positive sense. Because again, if you get too overly invested in guys that already have a slim chance of making the roster, you're just putting forth effort in something that just doesn't really make sense. Be more mindful of, knowing, hey, they got a slim chance, but if they make that team and they're doing good things, really, dive into that story and be happy for them and root for them. But, don't, blow a gasket because a guy who's an undrafted free agent who you liked in camp, was a camp superstar, didn't really do much in games, but you still want him on the team because you liked him, you liked his name, or you liked where he went to school. That stuff doesn't matter in a league where folks get paid to win games. So just kind of think of that. And I would say in that vein, again, it kind of goes back to that second point about enjoying the game and not nitpicking. Again, you understand that there's going to be a lot of undrafted guys. There's going to be a lot of backups, but there's also going to be a lot of just rookies, guys who they were probably beasts in college, but they're now transitioning to the NFL game. And also understanding when your first round pick is playing with a bunch of backups, Guess who's getting the star treatment and the star attention from an offensive line or defensive line or from receivers, things like that. That's what's going to happen. So, like I know for the Saints, like they got a guy, Brian Brzee, who's going to be defensive tackle. I don't know if he's going to play. He was coming back from a calf injury, but let's say for the sake of discussion, he plays. Guess what? He's going to get double teamed. Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame, they drafted. He's going to get double teamed sometimes. But in the actual game, when they're lined up against, a lineup opposite of a Cam Jordan or Carl Granderson or somebody like that, they're going to be going one-on-one in a regular season game, in the games that matter. So don't grade them too hard when you see like, oh, they're not really making a difference, or they're not really being this or that. Hey, what you should do is look for tendencies in the draft picks that may translate well. Because again, understand that now they're getting the star treatment. And what you want to see is, okay, how do they take that? How do you take getting double teamed? Are you giving up? Are you fighting through that? Um, you know, what's your technique looking like? Things like that. So look, I get it. Not every fan is well versed in that type of stuff, but you can still, you can still pick up, a novice can still pick up certain tendencies of that guy does that a lot, or this guy does this a lot. And think to yourself, okay, if we put him in with the star talent that we know we have on whatever side of the ball you want to talk about, how will that player translate when it's just mano y mano? Can they get in the backfield? Can they get that block? Can they make that contested catch? Can they make that throw? Do they have the vision as a running back? Honestly, I would say the running back position is probably the hardest to evaluate. So think of a guy, like a young running back who's going to be playing with backup offensive linemen. They're probably not going to get the holes or the necessary holes that a starting offensive line would be able to generate. But at the same time, you want to know, hey, can he hit that hard? Is he running hard? What is he doing in passing situations? Is he blocking well? For receivers, I can tell you right now, with New York Giants, they drafted a wide receiver, Jalen Hyde from Tennessee. I want to see how he plays. Very, very speedy guy in college. He torched my Alabama Crimson Tide. But I want to see the other elements to the route tree that he brings. I know he's a speed guy. I know when he plays with Daniel Jones, he can just run down the field and Daniel Jones will hit him in stride. But I want to see how he plays with Tyrod Taylor. Instead of running a post route or a fly route, can you run that dig? Can you run that slant? Can you run block? Because the Giants are a running team. They're going to go as far as Saquon Barkley takes them. So can you do some of those little things that are supposed to translate to a long NFL career? And you know, enjoy it. I mean, there's some guys I'm gonna be watching that aren't on the two teams that I love the most, and I just want to see how they compete. One thing that comes to mind is a Trey Lance. I want to see how he competes. Uh, Obviously, everybody's anointing Brock Purdy after 6 games, which I think is far fetched. Then you got Sam Darnold coming in. Well, God, I mean, yeah, you were the number 3 overall pick or number 2 overall pick. Number 3. I'm sorry, number 3 overall pick. But guess what? They don't believe in you. They believe that a mid-round pick is better than you. They believe that a journeyman quarterback at this point, which is what Sam Darnold is at this point, is better than you. And are you going to step up to the plate and compete? Are you going to get out of your own head and just play the game? That's something I'm looking for. I'm looking for Jordan Love to kind of show a little bit, understanding that, look, it's preseason. Uh, Green Bay is going to run a vanilla offense, but can you provide something that gives your fan base some belief that you're going to do some great things? Just making the right read, something as simple as that. Incompletions, things like that are going to happen. Can you take care of the ball in that first drive? Can you keep the chains moving? Those are going to be things that I'm looking for. There's going to be some defensive line and offensive line work that I'm looking at. What are their techniques? Are they in danger of committing a lot of penalties? Because we know that penalties and lack of discipline is what loses games. So again, look for tendencies, especially in your young guys. The team wouldn't have invested a draft pick if they didn't feel strongly about how that player is going to translate to the next level. And so some of the things they're going to be looking at are tendencies. Are you doing the right thing? Are you performing the right technique? Are you in the right position when we make these certain play calls? That's going to dictate the type of playing time they get, if they can really make a difference on the team. So, you know, with that being said, let's do a recap of Trey's guide to enjoying the NFL preseason. So, one, again, pray for health always. That has to be the top. I know we look at these guys like, I don't know, like warlords, like they're not human sometimes, superheroes, but they are human. And we want to make sure that they are human. They have a bunch of humans that rely on them. And so with all the mental things that come with the game, at the very least, let's pray for that mental health and that physical health to where they're competing to the best of their abilities and giving their all. And if they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. But they know that it wasn't some fluke injury or something like that that cost them their dream in that particular destination. Because again, they're trying out for the 31 of the team. So if they can catch on with your squad, hopefully, with good help, they can catch on somewhere else and continue to live on that dream. Also, enjoy the game. Don't nitpick. I promise you, you will have 17 regular season games. And if you have a good team, you're going to have, I think, what is that, 3 or 4 postseason games to nitpick all you want to. But what you see in preseason, because of the vanilla offenses, the vanilla defenses, everybody's not trying to show their stuff, new players, new systems for some teams, a lot of backups, starters aren't really playing. Just going to go crazy. You're not going to have any energy week one. Enjoy the game. Stop nitpicking. Again, understanding that your fan favorite is probably not going to make the team. And if they do, they're probably not going to get substantial playing time, in the sense that they're probably making the team to fill a role on special teams, probably filling the role to be kind of a swing guy to come in when somebody's hurt or has to miss a few plays or something like that. But or they might be a practice squad person or a practice squad player, but they're not always going to, make the team, and it's okay. So let's not get overly invested in fan favorites to the point where we're condemning the coaches and the front office for going with the best 53. So there's that. And then again, when you're thinking about your undrafted guys, your young guys, your current draft picks in this recent year, look for tendencies. We're not going to find anything that makes them a bust or a Hall of Famer in these 3 games. Like, I can tell you that right now. You are not. But you can try to look for certain tendencies in their game, some things they do well, some things they might need to work on to where that may translate to the main roster when they're playing with star level talent around them. And so if you do those things, if you do those 4 things, man, I guarantee you. Well, no, I don't like to guarantee, but you can trust me. I think you're really going to enjoy the preseason. I think you're going to enjoy your respective team and what they're bringing, and you're going to be excited um, for the regular season. Even if I guess root for the Chicago Bears or something like that, you too, if you follow this guide, can enjoy the season, enjoy the preseason, and you can enjoy the regular season as well, even if your team is a total dumpster fire. So there is that. Now, as I always say, and as I close, if I said anything that offended you, which I'm sure I did, that is a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.